Hello and good evening, everyone. This is Ankit. I'll be your trainer for the day. Let's give 1 or 2 minutes for everyone to join. I think Vinay is still yet to join, so I have joined. I think there are two more students in the list, but yeah, let's give them a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, you can open up the previous notebook. We'll continue with control structures. We'll continue with control structure and let me know if you have any questions. If there are no questions, Subhath, can you quickly define a list with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? 10 elements, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We will be using this to study our next concept, which is the for loop. All right, I think Subhalakshmi, it's just you. Then I'll start the session. Let me know in between if you have any questions. You can raise your hand and mute yourself. You can also put it in the chat. And if I'm going too fast and if you want any revision as well, you can let me know in between. When I say revision, revision of the same topic. So let us begin with something called as looping. Okay. All right. So I see Vinay has already joined. Nice. Let's give. Okay, let me give 1 more minute. I see a lot of students joining. Let's give 1 more minute. So there are two types of loops, class. People who have joined recently, do not worry. We have just defined one list with the elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For the same example, I'm going to take a list here. Let me call it as list 1. Let me say I have defined a list 1 with the elements 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. I want everyone to pay attention to the screen so that we can understand, excuse me, what we are trying to do. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to each and every element one at a time, perform certain actions, perform certain operations, and then move on to the next element. Let me repeat. What I want to do is I want to go to one element at a time, perform certain operations, execute certain commands. Once they are executed, then I want to go to the next element and repeat. Again, I want to execute certain operations, execute some commands, perform certain tasks, and then move on to the next. So what I'm trying to do here is I am looping through the elements. So let's say what I want to do is I simply say, let's say I want to add 2 to each and every element. Okay, I want to add +2 to every element. That's my simple task that I want to do. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write down a code for element in list 1. Now, let's understand what does this code do. What this code will do is, this is called as a variable. This can be any variable. People who are already aware about programming paradigms, this is equal to I inside a for loop. It's a variable that you have defined. It can take any name. You can define any variable name till it falls under the convention of your variable name. You can say element, you can say number, you can say item, whatever it is. It should not be a keyword. Whatever variable naming conventions that we have seen in the first session, they will still hold true, and you can give any name. Now, the moment you write for element in list one, there is a colon which is coming up. That means you're starting a for loop. Whatever statements that you write after this with an indentation, right? With an indentation, whatever statements you write, these statements will fall under the for loop. Great. So what I've done is I've written down a for loop and I'm trying to perform certain actions. Let's see what will happen in element. Now, what happens in element is I'm going to talk about iterations. Iterations means what? Iterations means that there are multiple elements that are present inside our object. We are talking about this list. There are 5 elements that are present, and you can iterate over these 5 elements. It means you can go to the first element, then you can go to the next element, then you can go to the next element, and so on. So there are going to be 5 iterations. In iteration 1, let me start with iteration. Let's say I'm going to use indexing concept. So let's say that the iteration that is going to be present is going to start with 0. In your 0th iteration, which mathematically is your first iteration, you are going to the 0th element of your, or 0th index of your element. That means you're going to 10. So what happens is element will first take the value 10. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say element is equals to, or I'm going to just say print element plus 2, for example. Let me remove these things. I'm going to say is I just want to increment each and every element by 2, and I want to print those elements. So what I'm going to do, print, and I'll say element plus 2. Okay. Let me write it a little bit more. I want to say print, and I'm going to say print element plus 2. Now let's see what happens. My iteration is 0. All right, the iteration that I'm going is the first iteration itself, in which what will happen, classes, element will go inside your list one. So what you're trying to do is you're going to iterate through whatever values, whatever elements are present inside your list. Each and every element at a time will be assigned to the variable element. So what will happen in your iteration 0, element 10 will be present, or element will take the value of 10. You go inside the for loop, you're printing element, but element is what? 10. So 10 plus 2, 12 will be printed. Now, Python will see that the indentation is ended. If you have any other logic, it will not go there. What it will do is it will go back to your loop, and now element will take the next value. Element will then take the value 20. So we are starting with our iteration 1, in which it will take the element value, which is 20, and it will print 22. What will happen is element has taken the value 20. You are printing 20 plus 2. The flow of control again goes back to the loop. Now what happens is Python moves on to the next element inside the list. Element is now taking the value 30. In my next iteration, the element value becomes 30 and you are printing 32, and so on. So basically what is going to happen is you will be able to iterate through all the elements which are present inside your loop. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to go back to my screen. I'm going to go back to my screen, and we are going to implement the same thing. But here what I'm going to do is instead of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, I have defined a list which is having elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let us use the same thing for elements, or let me use another variable for numbers, for number in list 1. So as I've mentioned previously, this is just a variable. You can take any variable name. It will just be used to store the element in the current iteration. So when the moment I write down this, Python knows that it has to go inside the list 1. It should have iterable objects. It means there should be multiple elements present inside your object. List has around 10 elements, so it's good to go. List is in any ways an iterable object because it's a collection. If you remember list, let me start with string. So your string, list, tuple, set, dictionary, all these things are made up of multiple objects. They have multiple elements within it. That means that you can iterate over through any of these data types. So coming back to our example of for loop, what is going to happen here is for number in list 1, the moment you see this, Python will go and start iterating through your list. In the first iteration, number will take the value 1, and it will execute all the codes that you need. So let me say I'm going to just print number. Okay. And let me say print number square. Okay. So if I want to do this, what's going to happen is, let's understand what is going to happen. I will say for number in list one, first thing that is going to happen is let's revise string concatenation as well. Element is okay. So in the first iteration, Python will go inside list one, number will take the value one. It will come back here within your print statement, within your for. The two indented quotes indicate that the two lines, the two print statements which are present are a part of your for loop. That means for every iteration, these two statements will be executed. So for the first iteration, the value will be, number will take the value 1. It will print 1 and the square of 1. Then the flow of control goes back to your for loop. Python moves on to the next element. Number now stores the value 2. So it will print 2 and the square of 2. After these two codes are executed, the flow of control again goes back to your for loop. Number will move on to the next element. Number will now store the value 3. It will print 3 and square of 3. So if I print this, I should get the first element and its square, the second number and its square, the third number and its square, fourth number and its square, and so on. Do you see that this is what has happened? I am simply, but does it appear like a square? Print number 1, 2, 3 number. Oh, I have given the exponential sign. Okay. So 1 and 1, 2 and 4, 3 and 9, and so on. You see that the squares of the numbers are related. I want all of you to quickly try this out. Define a list of 10 numbers. I would strongly suggest use the same list so that we can actually study a few more for loops. But let's quickly try it out. Let me know if you have any questions. We are going to look at a couple of more for loops.
Uh, sorry, Ankit. Actually, in the initial class, I missed your point. Meanwhile, people will try to execute this query, sorry, this program. Meanwhile, can you please explain me this for loop concept one more time? Like for number, because we are using number. That's the reason you mentioned for number in list, right?
So Vinay, the for loop discussion started immediately after you joined. So we waited for you for a couple of minutes. Don't worry, nothing was missed. Okay, don't worry, nothing is missed at all. We
Okay.
just defined this list before you joined, and the moment you joined, we started with the whiteboard where we were discussing about for loop. Now, coming back to this, number is just a variable. It will be used to store one element at a time. So in the first iteration, number stores 1. In the second iteration, number stores 2. So when the value number stores is 1, it goes inside, prints the value 1, and so see, when you're using a for loop, what is the idea? The idea is that you take one element at a time and perform certain action on those elements. So now in this loop, what I'm trying to do is I'm going to take one element at a time. So at this current iteration, number will take the value 1. And whatever you want to do with that element, you can do. You can print number is 1. You can print the square of the number. You can perform any operation that you want with respect to this number. Till all the lines inside the for loop are executed, number will keep storing the value 1. Once all the iteration of, let's say once all the codes are executed, it means your first iteration is complete. In the first iteration, number had taken what value? It had taken the value 1. And this can be any variable. You can use element, you can use I, you can use A, any variable. Number is just a variable, okay, which is used to store the value of an element. So let me do one thing. Let me remove this. Let's keep it very simple. So what it's going in the first iteration, it has picked up the value 1, and once it comes inside the for loop, it will print that number. Right? It has printed 1. Are we good till now?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, once this part of the for loop is completed, I'm going to use a terminology that the flow of control is going to go back to the for loop. See, this for loop will keep executing till you reach the end of your list. Till the last element has been cached, has been iterated over, the for loop will continue. So in the first iteration, it was 1. Now, once it has done whatever it wanted to do with 1, it wanted to print the number. Okay, it has printed the number. The flow of control goes back again to the for loop. And now what it will say is, it will say that, okay, let me move on to the next element, right? So what it will do is it will move on to 2. Now numbers has taken the value 2. Once again, it will go inside whatever you want to do with number. Exactly the same code will be executed for this. What I'm doing, printing number. But right now, what is the value of number? The value of number is 2. Right? Once all the codes for this iteration is over, the flow of control will go back to the for loop and it will say, okay, now I have done with the number 2. Let's move on to the next element. Number will take the element 3. So basically, in very simple terms, it will take one element at a time, right? By what you're doing is it will take one element at a time, assign it to the variable that you have mentioned. You can use that variable and perform any operations that you want in your for loop. So what will it do? It will take one element at a time and perform all the operations on that particular element one by one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, everything is fine. I understand now. Thank you.
Let's quickly try this out. Let's quickly try this. So people who are done, what I want you to do is, if you are done already, I want you to print the square of the number. Okay, this is a code which is going to print an element using for loop, right, in the list. Now what I want to do is I want to print the square of the number, same list. Let's do that. See, all right, class. See, we are entering into slightly, let's say, complex topics. When I say slightly, it means it's complicated as compared to the last session's topic. If you have any questions, if you are facing any error, just let me know. All right, we'll try to resolve the errors. We'll look at debugging as well. Do not worry. If you do not understand as well, just let me know. Okay. If you understood, let's quickly try out by printing square. I want you to print, I want the output, I'll tell you. I want the output as square of 1 is 1, square of 2 is 2, in this manner. This is, and so on. This is what I want the output. Let's see. Can anyone do this? Let's see. So this will also help you to revise certain concepts, and I think one new concept is something that I've introduced to you. Let me move the screen so that everything is visible to everyone. Let me know if anyone is able to execute this code. This is the output that I need. Expected output is this. See someone mentioning done. Subbalakshmi, you're done. Great. Were you able to get this output? Yes. Yes. Awesome. Awesome. Let's quickly try it out and let's see if what you and me are going to do is the same. So what we are going to do, okay, people, if you're not done, still come back to the screen. Come back to the screen. A quick revision of for loop. For, I'm going to go for number in list 1. Again, I want to, something is not correct. Okay, give me 1 second. Yes. So for number in list 1. Yes, that's right. I into I. What I'm going to do is I want to iterate over all the elements. So I'm going to print for number in list 1. Number in the first iteration will take the value 1. In the second iteration, it will take the value 2. In the third iteration, it will take the value 3 and so on. So in every iteration, I want to print one simple thing, which is square of, and then I want to give a space. I'll give plus. You remember string concatenation, everyone? We would have seen that With the help of plus between two strings, we will perform string concatenation. I'm going to say number. I'm going to use another plus here, and I'm going to say is, and then I'm going to add one more plus, and I'm going to say number into number. This code will, when I execute this code, I will run into an error. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to take number, I'm trying to iterate over number, which is present inside the list. So let me print the list one for your reference. If you look at list one, you will see that there are 10 elements. The moment I write for number in list one, what will happen is number in the first iteration will take the value one, and it should ideally print square of one is one into one is one. The moment I do this, it will turn an error saying that you cannot perform string concatenation between an integer and a string. Do you remember, class, when in the first session itself, what we would have discussed, that plus is an operator. When applied between two numbers, it will add the values. When applied between two strings, it will concatenate the two strings. But now what I want to do is, this is an integer and this is a string. So you will get an error saying that, surprisingly, I'm not getting an error. Yeah. So I'm going to get an error that you cannot concatenate an integer to a string. So what you need to do, you need to first typecast. We will convert this integer into a string with the help of an inbuilt function called as str. So what does str do? See, if you have 10, I type 10, you get 10. But the moment I say str, what this str function does is it will convert this number into a string. So now this function, if any number is given to this function will convert that number into a string. So I'm going to use that function, which will typecast this number into a string so that I can perform string concatenation. So now I'm good with square of 10 is, and here as well, the square of the number will itself be a square. And the moment I do this, this is the output that I get. So let's see, how does this loop run? Number in the first iteration will take the value 1. The flow of control goes inside the for loop. It looks at indentation. It sees I have one line of code that I need to execute. It will go and execute square of 1 is 1. The flow of control then goes back to the for loop. Number now takes the value 2. Flow of control comes inside the for loop. It says, okay, now the value of number is 2. I need to execute in this iteration, print the square of 2. Number already has the value 2, and this calculation will give you 4. So it executes the second line. Then the flow of control again goes back to your for loop. Number now takes the value 3. You will execute, flow of control comes inside. It will execute the line, print square of 3 is 9, and so on. Now again, the flow goes back, number takes the next element. So here it's going to iterate over one element at a time. And inside the for loop, if you have multiple lines, it will execute multiple lines, but it will keep executing till you are a part of the loop, and the for loop will keep executing till your last element. If you understood this, okay, before I go ahead, is everyone clear with this? Can I get a yes in the chat? If everyone is clear with this, can I get a yes in the chat? Is everyone clear with this? How did we print the square of a number? Yes, yes. I think Subha has already printed this. Balakshi, I'm going to assume you are also good with it. Other people, let me know. Did you understand what we are trying to do here? Let's keep the session interactive, class. All right. Now, with that, if you're clear, what I want you to do is, class, I want you to identify whether a number is an odd number or an even number. Okay, with the help of for loop, you are going to identify if the number is odd or even inside the list. Let's quickly try this out. And let me tell you let's see who can tell me the formula, mathematical formula here inside Python to calculate whether a number is even or odd. So I want if the number is even or odd, both we are going to check. If it is even, I'm going to print number is even. If it's odd, I'm going to print the number is odd. Let's see if anyone can do this. If you can't, don't worry. This is just for your practice. See, the reason why I'm telling you to do it is so that it starts. I want that the logical part should be triggered inside your brain. That's what I want. Syntax is okay, but let's trigger those logical parts. And it will also help you revise what we did in the last sessions. Anyone remembers? How do we calculate? How do we identify if a number is an even or odd? Anyone? Let me know the operator that you will use to identify if a number is even or odd. Oh, no. Then percentage 2 percentage, that's perfect. Yes, perfect. So class, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this for number in list 1. And what I'm going to do is, let me confuse it. Now I'm going to use only num. Okay, because as I mentioned, it can be any variable. You need not just have any, you can use I, you can use A, B, C, D, whatever you want, a valid variable name. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if my number is exactly divisible by 2. That means I'm going to use this modulus operator. You remember what we would have done? This operator will give you the division, the remainder after division. So if I divide this number by 2, if my remainder is 0, that means I want to print what? Print that, let me say str num, and then I'm going to add with a space is an even number. Else I'm simply going to print that str num is an odd number. Why? Because when you divide by 2, the only possible remainders are 0 or 1. So if it is not 0, that means it is 1. That means it's definitely odd. Let me repeat. What we are doing is, let's dissect this code because we have more than one line of code now inside the for loop. Now inside your for loop, you have an if-else condition which is present. With the help of indentation, Python knows that all these 4 lines are a part of for loop. That means for every iteration in my for loop, the following 4 lines have to be executed. Now let's understand how does Python print this. So let me print list 1 for you first. In list 1, what I see is my first element is 1. So in the first iteration, num will go and take the value 1. It will come inside the for loop. It will check if 1% 2. Now 1% 2 will be the output of 1% 2 will be what class? If you check the output of 1% 2 means what? I want to know if I divide 1 by 2, what will be my remainder? The remainder is going to be 1. So the remainder is 1. Is it equal to 0? No. So what it means is that the condition of your if statement is false. If the condition is false, Python will go out of this if statement and go to the next statement which comes below if. What do you have below if? It means there is else. Now since it has else, it means whenever the condition is false, Python will automatically go to else and it will print your 1 is an odd number. Right? Let's take one more example quickly. Now, after this execution is done, the flow of control will go back to the for loop. Num will take the value, which is the next value that is called as 2. It goes inside 2. It goes inside the for loop. Now, it goes inside the first command is it will check is num percent 2 equal to 0. The condition is true. If the condition is true, it will print 2 is an even number. And it will it execute else? No. If your condition is true, your if part is executed. If your condition is false, your else part is executed. Here, since the condition was true, that means 2% 2, that is 2 modulus 2 will give you exactly 0, indicating that you will print that the number 2 is an even number. Now the flow of control will go directly back to num. Num will take the value 3. Now, it comes here 3% 2. It will calculate, it will see that if you divide 3 by 2, the remainder is 1. So the condition is false. Python goes to the else part and executes the else part as it is. The moment I execute this, you will see for each and every element, it was able to correctly identify that 1 is an odd number, 2 is an even number. So inside the list, I was able to find out if a number is even or odd with the help of the percentage operator. Do you want to quickly try this out? Let me know if you want a revision. We can do it as well if you're not understood. But if you understood, I want you to try this out. In the meanwhile, I'll just let you know in the background that what we have done, we have implemented a lot of concepts that we have learned in the last few sessions. We have implemented for loop in this particular code. We have implemented if-else control structure in this code. We are checking a Boolean condition. We have used a Boolean operator, which is equal to. We have used a percentage operator that gives remainder after division. We are using a print statement. We are using string concatenation. We are using typecasting as well. So see, just 4 lines of code, and I think more than 7, 8 concepts is what we have seen in these 4 lines of code. We have seen colon, we have seen variable declaration, we are using a list. So almost whatever we learned in simple 4 lines of code, we have executed everything. Vinay is done. Vinay is done. If you're done, then what I want you to do is I want you to calculate the square if the number is even. Let's do this. So I want you to calculate square if the number is even and cube if the number, just last for your practice, and cube if the number is odd. Let's try this out. People who are done, can you quickly try this out? Using the for loop inside a list, if an element is an even number, I want you to calculate the square. If the element is an odd number, I want you to calculate its cube. All right, let me show you the code. If you're trying, try it out. Don't worry. If you're trying, try it out. I'm going to say for num is, let me use, oh, Subbalakshmi is done, Vinay is done, nice. Let me use a different variable. I'm going to say for lm. For lm in my list one, if lm percentage list one, 1, 2, 3, 4 for I in list one, I that perfect, perfect. Element %2 is equals to 0. Then I want to print that square of class str lm is, and I'm going to say str num raised to, or num into num, simple. Let's keep it simple. Else I'm going to print cube of element is num into num into num. And I got an error saying I have not given a colon after else, nice. So for every odd number, it has calculated its cube, and for every even number, it has calculated its square. But it does not seem to have calculated the square of reverse. Oh, I am still using num, lm into lm. So here the iterator that I have used is lm. So I'll have to use lm everywhere, and that is just to showcase that. See, I have seen students getting confused. What is the variable that I need to give here? You can give any variable. People with programming background will understand that what I'm talking about is I. Let's give 10 seconds for everyone to complete this. Let's give 10-15 seconds for everyone to complete this. And then we are going to look at a function which is called as the range function. So everyone please come back to the screen. Everyone please come back to the screen. Now, did you see how easy it is? See, I can only say this for people who already are aware about for loop, that it is so easy to iterate over the elements, right? You don't have to worry about where to start with, you don't have to worry where to stop at, and you don't have to worry that we have to move one step ahead every time. Python takes care of all these three things to you. Now, in case of a loop, rather, yes, there is a requirement that you should always give where does the loop start at, where does the loop end, and where what is the incremental process. So see, because when you're talking about looping, it means that I need to start at my first element, I need to stop at my last element, and the looping will be that you see, I have been constantly moving my mouse in a direction to create a loop. And in every iteration, the elements are moving one by one. Now, the beauty of Python is that it will always take care of all these three steps: start, iterate, stop. All these three things inside any iterable object, for loop takes care of. Now, this being an advantage on one side, it becomes slightly disadvantageous to those people who want to control how the loops run, how the index runs. So let's say I don't want to go from 1 to 2. What I want to do is I want to go from 1 to 3, right? Or I want to go to 1 to 5, or I want to do certain such things. That is where the range function is a function that comes into picture. Now, range is a function in Python that will create a range of numbers. When I say it creates a range of numbers, let's see. So I am going to say for I in range 0 to 10. This is the function which will take as input two values. Right? Your first value is your start, and let me call it start value, and then you have your stop value. Now I specifically call it as a stop value. Why? Because your range function, whenever you give a range function, it will start your numbers from 0. It will go right up to the stop value, but it will stop just before the stop value. That means here it will start with 0. You remember even in your indexing, if you see the same concept that we have in indexing, where this is the start, this is the stop, you will start at 0 and stop just one before this. Now, if I'm going to print I, you will see that it will print numbers from 0 to 10. So this range function is used to create a range of numbers that can start from at any point, it can end at any point. If I give 10 to 100, you will see it will create a range of numbers from 10 to 100, right? I can give 100. So the only requirement again is that your start should be less than your stop. That's the simple thing. So yes, that's right, n minus 1. Now this is your start value, this is your stop value. You can create any index. Now you say, how is this going to be useful to me? Like, what is the use here? The use here is you can always use this to create the index, right? Now let's say I say for I in range. Okay, now tell me, can someone tell me if I have this list 1, if I have this list 1 here, right? What will be my starting index? My starting index will be 0. What will be my last index? Can someone tell me what will be my last? If I want to go till 10, what should I give here in my range function? What should be the value that I should give? My last index is 9. That is for sure. So if my last index is 9, that means I should give 10, because it will not take into consideration 10. It will stop just before 10, which is 9. So if I want to go from 0 to 9, I have to give here 10. Now, surprisingly, class, see this. What is the length? What is the length of my string? The length of my string will also be equal to 10. That means that instead of giving 0 to 10, what I can give is I can give 0 comma length of my list, because the length of my list will be 10. If the length of my list is 10, then the last index will always be n minus 1. That is where I want to go to range with. Now, the beauty about this particular range function, again, as part to index, is your default start value. If you do not give any start value, it will always take as 0. So what I'm going to do, I am going to remove this 0 and I'm going to say for I in range length of list 1. Now let me print I. The moment I print I, you will see that it has printed 0 to 9. What are these 0 to 9 things? These are nothing but I am going to use them as my index. And I am going to say list 1 I. And I am going to use indexing to print my values. Do you see that what I have printed is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I here, let me do one thing. In fact, let me do one thing to avoid any confusion. I will do, let's create a new list. Okay, let me create a new list and we will apply everything on that new list. So list 2 is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, let me say 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. Okay, and the length of my list 2 is also 10 elements. Okay, list 2. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to iterate over my list 2 and I'm going to iterate over my list 2. Now what will happen? I in range length of list 2. What is I in range length of list 2? It means it is telling Python that create a range of numbers which starts with 0 and they should go, the stop value will be the length of your list, which is 10. That means I want to create a range of numbers from 0 to 9. Okay, cool. So I will first take the value of 0 and this I am going to use as an index number. So I'm going to say print the element at the 0th index. Ith index means 0th index when you're running the first iteration. Then as part of the loop, I will go to the next value in the range. The next value will be 1. So you will be printing the value in the next range. So you are printing one value at a time with the help of indexing. Now, the next question that you were going to ask me is what's the point? I am printing this. I can directly print it using my previous syntax, which was for number in list 1, for element in list 1. Why do I need to do with the help of indexing? This is because you have a very good function which is called as range. Range will work in the exact same manner how your indexing works. I can say for I in range, I will say 0, I will say length of list 2. Okay, and now I have one thing which is called as the step. If you see, if I print this, I hope everyone remembers step. Step means the number of jumps that have to be taken to reach the next element. So by default, the step value is 1, but you can always specify start, comma, stop, comma, the step inside your range function that will tell you that you start from 0, you just stop before 10, but from 0, take a jump of 2. So 0, 1, 2, that's your next number. In this manner, you can control what elements you want to access from a particular iterable object with the help of your indexing and slicing. That is why this range function has become very famous among a lot of developers. So I see that I have written down a lot of code. Let me give you some time to execute this. Let me remove all the outputs so that your outputs, all your codes are visible in a single go. And let's try this out. Let me repeat what we are trying to do here is we are trying to use a range function. Range function is nothing, but it will create a range of numbers from the values that you have given. It will start the range of numbers from your start value. It will go up to the stop value. If you give step, it will also create the range in that step. Now the range that you have created with the help of for loop, we are iterating over this range and we are using the iterator as the index for our list so that we can control how do we want to access. If you want to access every other element, use the step of 2. Every third element, use the step of 3. Every element, let it be the default step. Let's quickly try this out and let me know if you have any questions. All right, I'm going to make an assumption that we are done. I'll give you 20 more seconds in case you're not. Okay, I see a chat saying done, done. Great, great. So I want everyone to please come back to the screen. Everyone, please come back to the screen. We are going to look at a statement or a keyword, a new keyword, which is called as break. In order to study this, let me print your list 2 again. So let's say you want to print list 2 and you want to only print it till the value 40. Or let's say the moment you encounter 50, the moment you encounter the value 50, you want to stop the for loop, right? So break is a statement, or break in itself is a keyword. It is a statement in itself which will stop the execution of the for loop. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with for num inside my list 2. I want to first check if my number is exactly equal to 50. I want to break, right? If it is not 50, what I will do is I will print my number. Now, do you see I have not written an else statement here. What I'm doing, I'm only checking if the number is equal to 50. I am saying break, right? So if this condition is not true, there is no else statement. There is a logically next statement, which is print now, right? There is no else statement here. But okay, you can put this in else as well. That will not make much difference. But the point here is that this is outside your if. Now let's see what will Python do. Num will take the value 10. It will come inside. It will check is 10 equal to 50. The condition is false. For the flow of control will go outside if it will print the value 10. Now the flow of control will go back to the loop. Num will now take the value 20. Is 20 equal to 50? No. The if condition is still false. You will go outside the if loop. You will print 20. The flow of control goes back to num. Num takes the value 30. 30 is not equal to 50. It will print 30. 40 is not equal to 50. It will print 50. Now, the moment you reach 50, let's see what happens. Num takes the value 50. Is 50 equal to 50? The condition becomes true. The condition becomes true. The flow of control will go inside your if statement and Python will execute break. Now, what does break do? Break will stop the execution of the for loop immediately. It will not create any particular, it will not go ahead, it will stop immediately. So that means your for loop will be broken down. So if you execute, you will see that only till 40 your numbers have been executed, because when the condition for 50 equals to 50 became true, you had to execute a statement called as break. And what does break do? Break will completely stop the execution of your for loop. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to tell you one statement which is called as continue. So what does continue do? Continue will stop the current iteration. See, your break is a keyword, or break is a statement that breaks and completely stops the entire for loop. But continue is a statement that will stop the current iteration and move on to the next iteration. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say for num in list 2, what I'm going to check if let's use the same condition, exactly same condition. If num is equal to 50, num equals to 50, I want to, instead of break, I'm going to say continue. And I'm going to say print num. Now what happens in case of continue classes? The continue statement will stop the current iteration. So let's see, num takes the value 10. 10 is not equal to 50. Condition is false, 10 will be printed. Similarly, 20 will be printed, 30 will be printed, 40 will be printed. Let's see what happens when num becomes 50. The moment num becomes 50, your condition becomes true and you go inside the if statement. Python will execute continue. The moment Python executes continue, your current iteration will stop. That means nothing will be executed after continue. Nothing will be executed after continue. The current iteration will stop. That means when num's value was 50, you encountered continue here. That means Python will stop the current iteration and move on to the next iteration. It will immediately move on to the next iteration. That means 50 will not be printed here. For the iteration when num takes the value 50, it will encounter continue here. and it will stop the iteration. Instead of executing this code, the flow of control will automatically go to the next iteration of the for loop. So the output here you will see that 50 is not printed because when the iteration was that of 50, it encountered a statement called as continue. The moment Python encounters continue, it stops the current execution and moves on to the next iteration. So difference between break and continue, break completely stops the for loop. It will come out of the for loop, but continue will simply come out of the current iteration. It will move on to the next iteration. All right. Does that make sense? Is that clear, class? Difference between break and continue. Break stops the for loop completely. Continue only stops the current iteration. Let's quickly try this out if it is clear. I see, Vinay, you have given a nested for loop. We will do nested for loop in some sessions, not right now, but we will definitely do them. We have planned it during arrays and most probably during linear algebra. If that time we will look at nested for loop. But yeah, what you have done is correct. Actually. All right. So along with break and continue, there is one more statement, and that statement is called as pass. This is my favorite statement because it does nothing. It does nothing. It literally does nothing. So I'm going to use the same code. If I take the same piece of code and if I execute here, but instead of continue, if I use pass, let's see what will pass do. Pass will do nothing. Okay, if I execute, it will print everything. What happens is pass is rather a statement which is more like a placeholder class. See, sometimes you know that there is something that you will have to execute with when the condition is equal to 50. Let's say there you are very sure that you have to execute something, but you don't know what. Maybe you are still developing the logic, you're still having a discussion with your business, the final outcome is or final logic is not yet finalized. There are multiple approaches, whatever. But you know that there is one condition for which you have to execute certain code. So what will happen is you will leave it like this. Right? You will say, okay, I'll come back and write later. The moment you do this, Python will give you an error saying that I don't know what you're trying to do. So for such cases, you have a keyword called as pass, wherein you tell that this is a placeholder, just do nothing. Sit here, do nothing. It is mostly used in cases where you have to mention something syntactically. You don't know the exact thing that you want to write. You will come back in future. So you can simply say, do one thing, pass. Pass is more a syntactical placeholder to avoid any syntactical errors. When you don't know what code you want to write, what logic you want to implement, you can simply use the word pass because this does nothing. It's like pass, do nothing, execute nothing. But it will work as a placeholder. Let's quickly try this out as well.
Ankit, actually, I tried the same way which you said. I got the same output, like 10, 20 for everything, 30 like that. And
Yeah.
when I keep next to the print pass immediate print, if I gave, I am getting only one digit, one
Can you
element.
share your code? Can you share your code?
No, no, no. Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. I shared in the chat.
Yeah, this is your
Yes.
code, right? So
Yeah.
see, if you put print inside, this is what you have done, right?
Yes.
What will it do is, see, it means this print num will be executed when the condition is true. Only then you are printing the number. Is that right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes. So in that case, it will only print when your flow of control or Python goes inside. When will Python go inside it? Only if that condition is. That is why I kept it outside so that irrespective. So what happens is this will default. See, this is going to execute for all numbers, right? The only thing is this code will be executed only for num equals to 50. The moment you put this inside, what happens is your entire code is that this is the indented code. That means this will be a part of if, which will be executed only when this statement is true.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Just I tried.
this is
Trial
nice.
and error kind of difference.
Okay.
Thank
With
you.
that class, let's reach out to I know we are already on time, but before we wrap up, there is a very simple concept that I'm going to tell you, which is the other loop called as while loop. Okay. So in case of while loop, there are three things. You remember the three things that you need. The first thing is you want to start. See, while loop is not like for loop. It does not automatically iterate. While loop is used when you want to manually run a loop. So a lot of students ask me whether what is your favorite for loop or while loop. Both are used to exactly achieve the same thing. Both are can be used to implement logics. Everything that can be done in for can be done in while. Everything that you can do in while can be done in for. It's as simple as that. Okay, so there is no such difference. But if you want to really remember how when to use what, when there is a straight iteration, go for loop. When you want to control and when I say control, you want to customize, have a very strict control on how the loop should run. When I say control, it means you want to control what is your start condition, what is your stop condition, and what is your end condition. When you need to control all these three things, go for while loop. If it's going to be default, like the end, if any one of them is default, let's say your start is the default start, or your end is the default end, or your step is the default step, then in that case, go for loop. So when all three things, your start, your iteration logic, and your stop, if all three is going to be customized, then in that case, and it's not a default value, go for while loop. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to define my start value, and manually I'm going to define my start value as, let's say n is equals to 5. What I'm going to do, let me say 4, because I want to start iterating my list 2 from between. Okay, I want to iterate my list 2 from index 4, which is the value 50. So this is my start value. Then I'm going to say the stop condition. Okay, how do I go with the stop condition? I'm going to use the famous statement, which is your while. I'm going to say while n is less than, and let me say I want to go from 50, I just want to go till the next three index. So 4 plus 3 is 7. So I'm going to check till n is less than equal to 7. What I want to do is I want to calculate, let's say, list to n into list to n. I want to calculate the square of the numbers. Or let me print for your simplicity. Whenever I print, it means you can have any operation there. So lists to index n is what I'm going to print. So what I've done, I have controlled that this is my start condition. I am saying while this condition is true, that means when L is less than equal to 7, what I want to do is I want you to print the list of n. And then I'm going to control my iteration. How I'm going to control my iteration class? I'm going to say within this n is equals to n plus 1. The other is n plus equals to 1. Same thing you can do. And if I do this, you see 50, 60, 70, and 80. So 4, 5, 6, and 7. These four elements have been printed. Do you see this? What did I do? Let me repeat. I started with the start value. I have manually defined an index value n is equals to 4. Generally, in for loop, to achieve the same thing, I will have to use a combination of pass, break. I can use a range function to start with 4, stop with 7, right? I can simply do that. If I have to use in the for loop, what I've done for I in range I'm saying start from 4, stop at 8, right? And what I want to do is print, see, list 2 of an exactly same output. No, it's not giving me the exactly same output because I have to use I. Okay, so you see exactly same output. Here what you have done is your start value is 4. So that 4 I have initialized here, n is equals to 4. Then I'm saying that my stop value is going to be a condition within the while that it should be less than equal to 7. I will execute whatever logic I want and then I can control how I want my iteration to work. Here the step by default is 1. If I give 1, that is what is going to run. If I change this to 2, you see only 2 elements are going to be executed. Similarly, I can execute here and I'll get the same thing. So here your start value, your stop condition and your iteration is completely under your control. As I mentioned, everything that you can do in while can be implemented in for and the vice versa is also true. So let me remove this 2. Let me keep it 1 so that for your documentation purpose, it becomes easy. Let me repeat, n is equals to 4 is your start condition where you're determining that I want to start the iteration from index 4, while n is less than equal to 7 is the stop condition that you are giving that when my index reaches 7, I need to only print values till 7. You can also give this as n is less than equal to 8 so that your for loop and your, so this is your stop value, this is your start value, and plus 1 is your step value which you have manually defined. So until and unless I would strongly say this is something which comes with habit, this is something which comes with intuition, but most of the times I have got into a habit of writing for loop because range function is uh, very flexible. But if there is a very complicated loop that you want to create which you cannot implement by for, and think that the formula is getting very complicated, feel free to use while loop. Here n value takes index value, that's right, yes. So n is the index that I am defining. See here how I is the variable that I'm using to define the index values. Similarly here I'm using n, Subhalakshmi, that's right. Can you please remove the iteration and run? See, that will not run. What will happen? What will happen? It will run until infinity because your n will always be less than 8. It will keep running when n. You need to increment. See, what will happen? Your n is less than 8. Your n is 4. Right side, it will print n which is 4. Then it will go up and it will again check. Is n less than 8? Yes. It will keep printing. Then what is this? This is also a loop. So again, it will go and check n is less than 8. Again, it will go and check n is less than 8. This will keep printing till infinity. That is why you need to always give the condition wherein you in all three conditions are mandatory. All right. So with that, we have completed our while loop. I want you to quickly try this out. And if you're done, feel free to drop off. If you have questions, let me know. Meanwhile, let me upload this for your. I hope class today you enjoyed this session. We had a good session today, a lot of concepts which are going through, but I think I hope that your concepts are getting clear and at the same time you are enjoying the language Python as well. I hope so. If that is the case, then we had a good session. I hope to see you on Saturday. Feel free to drop off. Thank you, everyone. All right, I think that we are good to go. In that case, thank you, everyone. Have a great week ahead. I hope to see you again on Saturday. Oh, okay. Don't worry. Here it is. All right, cool then. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.